daughter
Yep, and she's there.
was sick, and she started to feel sick today. And it's no problem being online if you're not running a meeting. As I learned the hard way.
No, it was a problem. I hate it.
Oh, but it's
4 o'clock wake
doable.
up.
I mean, it's not ideal, but
That's what I was-
because you're not, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have 6 o'clock. We will go ahead and get started. If everyone could please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Christy, could you take roll call, please?
Sure. Critelli,
Present.
Peppenfort,
Present.
Stevens,
Present.
Nacarado.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can. Martin,
Yes.
Fontana,
Here.
Mayor Shore.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Great. And before we begin, we are going to be removing the executive session from the agenda tonight. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. And that will take us to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns with anything on the consent agenda this evening?
Mr. Mayor, I have just a question on
Yeah.
item 4 regarding Art Walk. And I noticed that it's, the comments were Sackett closure as opposed to First, or F Street. And I know that if we're, for a closure in the past, it's always kind of been on F Street, so I wanted to just get more information as to why Sackett was preferred over that.
Sure. Earlier this summer, we closed Sackett for Chalk Fest and felt that that was a safer alternative to the F Street closure when we hadn't had it set up this summer. Wanted to have a more in-depth conversation with council about what our policies would be for closing F Street as the main business district street. So this can be changed if council would like to moving forward. Tina's here, so we could talk about timing, and if that still works. But that was the justification, because we had not closed F Street this summer except for FIBARC, and felt that Chalk Fest closure, or the closure on Sackett for Chalk Fest worked well and provided the space everyone needed.
It's still open F Street, so you can get to those parking lots.
That's correct.
And we will be convening that F Street committee in the next 30 days
Right.
for next year, just to try to.
Yeah, it was just also was brought to my attention that there were signatures gathered of business owners on F that would express their, I guess their preference for that, and I just wanted to hear more about that, as opposed to going through all that work to get the signatures to not.
What was your sense from the conversations you had with business owners in terms of?
I didn't have any conversations about Art Walk. I just had conversations with Tina about those signatures.
Okay.
That would insinuate that there was a preference, or.
They did want it to be on F Street?
Yeah, I don't think Art Walk got signatures to say that if they didn't. It was just to justify doing the closure. More of like, back to what Art Walk was, which was a walk instead of like a drive.
Or a stroll.
Or a brisk stroll. So yeah, I just wanted to hear how this kind of was separate from other times that we've done closures on F Street for particular events, and yeah, and I just I want to make sure that these events like Art Walk are given what they need to be successful, and especially if they've gone through the efforts of gathering signatures, I want to see the fruit of that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get more clarification.
Yeah. It's interesting, I haven't gotten any feedback from anyone on that. I don't know if any others have, but
No, I haven't, but I mean, and kind of, the way I'd see it was, Sackett kind of takes people down and away from kind of where the art district is and all the galleries. So, yeah, you'll be walking past it, I guess, to get to Sackett.
Right.
But everything going on down there kind of draws people down there and kind of away from the actual gallery, so.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
And that's
kinda-
my concern,
that's
too.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting from
I wonder
myself. I
if
haven't
it
heard
might,
anything.
might be helpful to have Tina come up, just since she has her finger on the pulse of what she's hearing from some of the artists in this community and can maybe offer some perspective that none of us up here have. Yeah, thanks.
Happy to. Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. And yes, so I'm in the downtown district several times a month. At minimum, a monthly outreach, whether it's email, you want to participate in First Friday, or just in the past couple of weeks to have some conversations and dialogue about F Street closure for Art Walk. And I appreciate all of the staff input in terms of the comments about, well, could it be Sackett? I heartily feel, and it is my job to advocate for the arts community, that's what I've been hired to do, to speak for the Creative District, that Art Walk remain in the Creative District, in the galleries. The events, the sales, the hands-on demos, those happen in the galleries, on the sidewalks, hopefully on the street, right in front of all the galleries. That's where you have the best conversations with the artists. I'm not going to ask those muralists to take down their big oil paintings and take them over to Sackett. And there's probably just some confusion about, this one's not Salida Arts Festival where lots of tents are set up in the park. This is the 31st year for Salida Art Walk. That happens like in the galleries on the street. And if you've been here in Salida for more than 4 years, you'll remember that Art Walk the street is closed for Art Walk. Other things I can add to that is we do have a precedent for closing, even though we don't quite have a process. We've had some really terrific recommendations, like Diesel found a company in Pueblo that could set up an industry standard closure. There's other staff that feel like, well, our current blockades will suffice. That we also closed the street for July 4th. So there was a precedent. It was done twice already this summer. So are there any other, in terms of like my dialogue with F Street businesses. So yeah, I've got my 2 pages. You all were spared from seeing all of that. My work with the city, this year is specifically focused on Creative District. My first year, because I'm now in my second year, my first year was processing special events for the city. So any community organization that wanted to put on an event, I was processing those applications. So I know exactly what it needs if you're going to request a street closure. And the street closure, by the way, when you're applying for an event, that's an option. It's an option. Would you like the street closed? It's an option in our application. So yes, but if you want a street closure, then you get all the signatures. So it took a day and a half to get all the signatures because it's not just going in and out. You're having these conversations and they're sharing all kinds of things, whether it's our elders, Paulette, Steph, that are saying, I'm really having trouble with technology and uploading my stuff, and so it's visits like that to restaurants like Chris. Yeah, we really would like the street closed. Anyway, I have my pages and a half if anybody wants to see it, of all of the pretty unanimous business affirmation. It's all yes. They don't sign it unless it's a yes. So, for example, Eye Candy, Oveja Negra, Currents, Maverick Potter, Limber Grove, Michael Clark Gallery, Kaleidoscope Toys, Maverick Potter, Arts Collective, Opal Boutique. It goes on and on. So
That was impressive with the way you rattled that all off.
okay, but any other questions? And I hear everyone's concerns, but I sometimes feel like we get in this analysis paralysis situation, and after a while it becomes a disservice to the people. We're a town of 6,000 under. Smart suggestions. Let's just get it done. Okay.
That help?
That helped.
Okay,
Thank you.
great, thanks.
I can just
Oh,
give
sure.
some perspective. Sorry. I just want to because this is obviously coming from within and from our own staff members, I think it'd probably we have been back and forth in the Special Events Committee. We changed the code this year, when we changed the Parks and Recreation Code. We changed the code to not have to come to council for a street closure. So it was that council approved every street closure. It's now a staff decision to be deferred if needed by the city administrator. So we had back and forths. When Tina came to present her event to the Special Events Committee, there was debate on whether or not we needed jersey barriers, whether or not we just needed regular barricades, and we then deferred to go to our directors meeting where the administrator was present. In that conversation, it was stated that staff preferred that the F Street not be closed overnight for multiple days because of basically there's a green light on first. So that green light is vehicles don't have to stop, and if they're turning right or turning left onto F, it presents a problem, which I understand. We do the same thing for FIBARC, where there's barricades, and there's honestly debate. And I think the administrator said, let's defer and take it to council to see. I mean, it made it on the consent agenda because kind of last minute, trying to get, is it gonna be F Street? Is it gonna be Sackett? Is it, like, we all agreed on Sackett, as in staff. So that's where this is coming from. I don't want you guys to think like there's conflict or there's disagreement amongst that. There's disagreement on whether we need jersey barriers, whether we need just barricades, whether or not we should be closing F Street as a habit. There's some, so I think this is why it's coming to you at this point. You guys can help us make the decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on the consent agenda?
Nothing else on the consent agenda, but I would.
Should we discuss this?
Yeah, I mean, I
Want to take it off and discuss it? 'Cause that's
I
what-
guess that would, if that's the way in order to.
Yeah, I
proceed.
think that's what we would want.
So the only thing that
Way to
you
proceed.
are approving with what is in the consent agenda right now is the liquor license. So if you want to discuss moving it, you can direct staff during
Council
your
comments.
council report,
great.
and you can direct staff to move it.
Okay,
Does that work
If
for
that,
everybody?
if that is okay with you,
that's great.
because what you have in the consent agenda doesn't include the street closure.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, I'm cool, whatever they decided to do, I'm okay, I get it.
okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with it being on Sackett. People still know how to walk on
And
sidewalks.
for those who would like to continue the conversation, just bring it up in your
Yeah,
council
later.
reports and we'll.
Totally.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I move to combine and approve the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
So, boy, that was a photo finish. So we have a motion from Councilmember Critelli, seconded by Councilmember Fontana. The motion is to combine and approve the items on the consent agenda. Further discussion? Christie?
Stevens,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Nacarado. I think she said yes. Fontana.
Yes.
Sound like a glass
Yes.
clinking. Wine
Bevanfort.
glass.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed.
And next up is citizen comment. Do we have anyone signed up? So they're walking to the back of the room. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody, anyone online?
No.
Okay. And so that'll take us to unfinished business and Resolution 2024-56, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the subdivision improvements and inclusionary housing agreement for the Shake and Roost major subdivision. And I just have to say how it's always good to see you back here.
Well, same goes for me.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Thank you. That's nice. Wish they'd say that to me at home, but I never get that.
That I can't promise you.
Thank you. I'll try and move this. We've seen this a few times. If you could- Do you do it or?
I could do it for you.
Thank you.
And they worked together for so long, it's like,
So to remind you, this is the site. It's 0.9 of an acre, located on the south side of Illinois between Milford and Tellers. Okay, Christie. Conceptual review of this with the Planning Commission on March 18th. The Planning Commission, the final plat or the major plat and recommended approval July 6th. Council looked at that major subdivision on 6th and recommended approval of resolution 2024-5. One of the conditions was this step, and that's approval of an improvement and a housing agreement. So this is really the business end of the subdivision. Just to remind you, it's 14 lots, which will be 7 duplexes. So they have common property lines between lot. You've got 8 on Illinois and 6 on Teller Street. Okay. So basically what those 25 pages does. First, it teases the design and construction of the public improvements. In this case, it will be a portion of repaving of Teller and building curb gutter sidewalk on Milford, Illinois, and Teller Streets. There's also a storm drainage reduction. Staff's reviewed the plans, they've already approved them, but then we will follow up with as it gets constructed to make sure it's built to specs. There is a requirement that they have to guarantee those improvements going in. So their engineer gave us a dollar amount of about $74,000 to do these improvements. We tack on 25% just to make sure that for contingency reasons, if they go away, then we have the funds available to finish those public improvements. There was a little bit of a change. They are phasing the project to a minor degree. So their first phase will really be doing focused on Teller Street and those 6 units there. When they're complete with that section, they'll do phase 2, which will include Illinois and Milford Street, all those improvements. So they've worked that through with the Public Works Director, and he's good with that. The agreement also says that you have to warranty those improvements. So once they put those in and we look at them and say they look good, they have to stay good for a year for those public improvements. So anybody drives over a concrete curb or sidewalk and breaks it, they replace it within that 1 year. And then they dedicate it to the city and it becomes ours to maintain from that point forward. The agreement also says that we will collect a fair contribution to schools, fee in lieu, open space fees, and there's an important part. The second half of the agreement is really how we meet the inclusionary housing agreement. And in this case, they are building 2 units, which is units, let's see, they're on lots 13 and 14. Those will be affordable. 1 will be for sale, and I think at this point they are looking at renting the other one. So 1 will be for sale at 140% AMI. If they have a rental, I believe it'll be at 80% AMI. If they decide they want to sell it and not rent that second unit, that would have to be sold to somebody, a household at 120% AMI. And then you recently had something that if there's, you multiply 14 units times 16.7, you end up with a fraction of an affordable unit, and they are paying the fee in lieu, and that's laid out in the agreement as well. So last. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but we are recommending approval. And we do have the development team here if you have any questions for them, or maybe they have questions.
Okay. Anybody have questions? I'll start with one real quickly on the phasing. With the first phase, will one of those 6 be one of the inclusionary units, or how will that work?
Yes, that's in first phase. In fact, there's a condition that says that the affordable units have to be built before the 6th market rate unit. So, yeah, those are lots 9 through 14. So 13 and 14 of phase 1 will be the affordable units.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where'd you guys come up with the name Shake and Roost?
That's a good question.
Oh, do you mind coming up just for me?
Yeah,
Sorry.
the people on YouTube are going to want to hear this.
It turns out it's a combination of nicknames from high school.
Oh, okay.
Shake and Bake and the Rooster becomes
Shake and Roost.
Okay.
I think that was an old Burt Reynolds movie.
I thought that was Cannonball Run.
All right.
Nice. All right, that's all I had, I guess.
That's great. Great question.
I mean, and I did want to say, just seeing the way you guys laid out the construction timeline, I'd never seen one as in depth or even close to as in depth as this, and it's really helpful. It's really helpful to, like, when people ask, like, hey, when is that getting finished, or what part I can point to this and let them know. Like, I wish more projects had such an in-depth visual timeline as you guys constructed. I think it's great. Thanks.
Awesome, thanks. Thank you. Any other questions?
No, thank you. Thank you for exactly what Justin said, laying it out, and so there probably won't be very many questions because everything is there.
So we can move into discussion. Does anyone have anything, or would anyone like to make a motion if there is no discussion?
I would offer a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve Resolution 2024-56, approving the subdivision improvements and inclusionary housing agreement for the Shake and Roost Major subdivision.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Fontana. The motion is to approve Resolution 2024-56, approving the Shake and Roost subdivision improvement and housing agreement. Further discussion?
Nacarado,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed.
And next up is Resolution 2024-57, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, pledging to practice and promote civility.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. About a month ago, City Council had a work session to discuss the effect that the civility invocation was having at the beginning of each council meeting. And council asked for staff to come back with some ideas on how we could continue to promote civility within the council chambers, but perhaps not read the civility invocation at the beginning of each meeting. So City Clerk Christy Jefferson has been putting the civility invocation on at the beginning so that it's clear to everyone that this is something that we all are adhering to. The Colorado Municipal League this year has started a statewide campaign through their president, and it's a civility initiative that is called Civility Starts Here, and CML has a lot of great resources on their website on how council members, the community, citizens, and staff can all work together to create more civil chambers within our communities. So I put together a resolution that that council can approve that really pledges that we hold civility to be extremely important, that when we're in council chambers that we will listen and speak courteously. Number 4 is not bet curious, it's be curious. Apologize
We're
for
gamblers.
that. There wasn't a little red line under the Word document, so, I just kept going apparently. So all of this came from CML, and I think it was well put together. So that's the resolution that you have in front of you. If you have questions, I can answer those. We also are looking at ways that we can include the civility invocation or these 8 bullet points permanently in council. You can see when you walk in on the right side there, we had some sample lettering up. It looks great when the lights are out in chambers, but it does not look great when we're here. So we're still working on what something could look like to be included in council chambers. So.
Thanks. Questions?
On number 1, it says, listen intently as you speak.
Listen as you speak.
Listen
Yes.
to yourself?
No, listen to other people speak. Oh, no, I don't know. Maybe. Maybe you need to be listening to yourself
I
speak.
kind of like that because it's kind of like
Listen intently
Seussical.
I do
others
too.
speak? Maybe it should be.
I usually
others
just tone
speak.
myself out when I speak for some reason. I
Maybe
just
think before you
ramble
speak
on.
Think before you speak.
and listen as they speak.
But let's change it up somehow.
Okay. I'll change it up.
Okay.
We'll change it up.
And you already caught the thing in number 4.
Kind of black out when I start to speak.
I do like the trying to just condense it though. That
Yeah.
in the spirit of that is good, but not
Right.
so ambiguous that it's Seussical, I guess.
There's a lot of other stuff that's under these bullet points on CML's website that I did not include in here. Yes.
But thanks for looping the CML back in there. I really appreciate
We
it.
appreciate the Reader's Digest version.
Yes.
As long as it's
Yeah.
grammatically accurate, spelled correctly.
Once you tighten it up a little bit.
Got it.
Before we print anything officially, we'll check for typos.
For sure.
Okay, go on.
The grammar police are alive and well.
I love it.
I've got more things circled. We could go through the whole packet if you like.
When we get there.
Anybody else have questions? Okay.
Just more a comment. I think
Yeah.
that this is just this just underscores what we're trying to do as a council and holding ourselves to a higher standard.
Yeah.
I remember when we first started talking about this and how there was some pushback about, limiting people's freedom to speak their minds as they come into this chamber. And I think it really just, we kept falling back on this would be a foundational principle that we conduct ourselves
Right.
under. And it's worked pretty well so far, as opposed to where we've been.
Yeah.
So, happy to make a motion unless someone
Yeah.
else wanted to say.
Does anyone have anything else before he? Okay.
I move to approve Resolution 2024-57, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, pledging to practice and promote civility.
Second.
So motion from Councilmember Curtelli, seconded by Councilmember Papenfort, and the motion is to approve, can you put that on the screen, please? Thanks.
Oh, let me go back up.
Yeah.
There you go.
The motion is to approve Resolution 2024-57, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, pledging to practice and promote civility. Further discussion?
Stevens,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Papenfort,
Yes.
motion passed.
Great. And before I move to the next one, Councilmember Nacarado, if you have anything to weigh in with at any time, just don't be bashful. Just let us know because I can't see you on the screen or anything. So just wanted you to know that. So next up, we have Resolution 2024-58, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, committing to a priority process for those developments constructing at least 50% affordable housing.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and I do have Catherine Dunleavy here as well, who helped work on this resolution with me.
Thank you.
So the city is in a wonderful position where we have developments coming in, and many of them have a number of affordable housing units, either through our inclusionary housing policy or through a developer's own initiative to build more affordable housing. We also are in receipt of funding from Proposition 123 that allows us to pay for staff time to really prioritize affordable housing projects and ensure that they are moving through our processes as efficiently and quickly as possible. So we're bringing forward this resolution to you, showing City of Salida's commitment to prioritizing these development projects where at least 50% of the units are permanently deed restricted affordable based on the AMI within our municipal code. So, we can adjust as we need to. If the municipal code changes, that will automatically adjust this resolution as well. So any development that's meeting the 50% affordability requirement, after they've recorded their subdivision plat, their subdivision improvement agreement, then the city can sit down with that developer and really outline where we can review the parts of the project in an expedited way. So it is committing City of Salida staff time to the development of these developments that meet our affordable housing goals. our recommendation is that the city council approve this. If you have questions, either I can attempt to answer them, or as I said, Catherine Dunleavy is here as well, and she is our housing planner.
Does anyone have any question? This makes sense to me, but.
Straightforward.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Yeah, go.
So when you say that what will happen is if they're agreeing to this 50% and you're gonna have this go through planning and all of that, when you say it's just gonna require staff time equals money.
That is given by Proposition 123.
That's what I was getting back to. So how much money is that? And when that money funding runs out, then who pays for that staff time?
Well, we will continue to process applications regardless of the Proposition 123 funds.
Right.
Because that's something that we do anyway.
Right.
Proposition 123 allows us to supplement staff salary by having them focus on housing developments. So we'd still be paying for it because it's part of our jobs to process the developments.
Right,
So
so
yeah.
you'll expedite those. Will that push the others behind? Out of the
We'll have
line?
to.
Or is
yep,
this like
we'll
fast
have
pass
to-
at
well,
Disney, where
yeah,
you just get to
that's-
cut the line, which,
It's clear at the airport.
yeah, yeah.
right.
I can address it, yeah, that's a possibility. If these move up in priority, there's still only so much that can be accomplished at one moment. So it probably depends on the workload at the time, but it is possible that others get lowered in
And we have given staff really clear direction about the importance of workforce housing, so.
So is there a limit on Prop 123?
We have the funds for 3 years, the staff capacity funds for 3
I
years.
believe it's 2 years.
To Bill,
But
Bill,
I'm pretty,
Bill.
the LPC grant was 2 years? The LPC grant
Pop
was 2
quiz.
years?
I thought it was, okay,
It is 2 years.
2 years.
So, I mean, just to be clear, though, that grant is not funding the objective or goal of this particular resolution per se. I mean, it's really funding Catherine's position in general, and as she says, it's really focused on the review, especially after the subdivision plat phase. So in effect, it really is a matter of kind of elevating the importance of those particular permits and discussions to move these to finalization. So by default, yes, maybe some of the projects will slip a little bit behind the others, but this puts priority on these particular types of projects.
And I've been on council now, it's been 7 years, and I can count on this one hand, even if I only had like one finger, the number of projects that have delivered 50% housing. So it would be awesome if we had a big queue, but we don't yet.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
How many are in the queue?
Who knows?
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Easy to prioritize, I think. One.
Yeah, you're in line behind one person. It'll be okay.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
I would think ideally, though, it would be really hard to be like, oh my God, there's so many over 50% that we're just trying to,
First come, first served.
yeah, we're trying to like really piece together the percentages at that point, just to see who gets first in line. That would be a
Ideally,
great
yeah.
problem to have, right? I think.
Yeah, and maybe not so much a problem as,
As a solution.
Right, a great solution.
The solution we're looking for.
Yeah.
but we probably shouldn't get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2024-58, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, committing to a priority process for developments constructing at least 50% affordable housing.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Critelli, seconded by Councilmember Stevens. And the motion is to approve Resolution 2024-58, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, committing to a priority process for developments constructing at least 50% affordable housing. Further discussion?
Critelli,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
motion passed.
And then next up is Resolution 2024-59, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the subdivision improvements and inclusionary housing agreement for the Flour Mill Plan Development and Major Subdivision. Thanks, Bill.
Yes, Mayor and Council, the applicant in this case has requested a continuance of this particular item to allow more opportunity for he and his lawyer to review the agreement, kind of in combination with the next item that you'll see, which is the incentives agreement for the Flour Mill PD. So that's the request at this point, and we would plan to then reconvene with the applicant, discuss it, and hopefully bring this back in front of you at the next council meeting, regular meeting.
So that would be on the 1st of October?
Yes.
Obviously we'll have a conversation, but with the motion, it would be to continue it to the October 1st meeting. That would be the
Correct.
language
Yeah.
under the motion.
We
Okay.
need to update that motion.
Yeah,
Is it the same for 2024-60?
Yes.
both of them.
Can we motion them both at the same time?
Don't believe so.
I think we
can
have to open it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then continue it.
Yeah. Questions?
Move to continue the resolution 2024-59 until October what?
First.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Critelli. The motion is to continue Resolution 24-59 until the October 1st council meeting. Further discussion?
Just that I am recusing myself from voting on this one because of conflict.
Great, thanks. Thank you.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, and then that takes us, don't go anywhere, Bill. 2024-60, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, approving an incentive and development agreement with Biker Baker Holdings related to the Flour Mill development.
Yep, similarly, so that these can be reviewed in conjunction with each other, the applicant has requested a continuance of this particular item as well to the next regularly scheduled city council meeting on October 1st. And therefore, the recommended motion is as such, amended as such.
Questions?
Mr. Mayor, I move to continue Resolution 2024-61 to the October 1st meeting.
60.
Or 6. It's
October 1st?
Oh, 60.
for October 1st.
Unless you want to
I'm
come
just
and
scrolling
have your
too
own
far.
meeting.
Second.
Okay, so motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Critelli, and the motion is to continue Resolution 2024-60 to the next council meeting on October 1st. Further discussion?
I'm recusing myself again for the same reason.
Fontana,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, and Resolution 2024-61, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the first amended and restated intergovernmental agreement for the Chaffee County Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to let you know that City Attorney Nina Williams is online. If you have any questions, since this is a legal document, you can ask her. She's available. So we have this resolution and then the next item on your agenda are really closely linked. So I'm going to talk about both of them at the same time, but you'll be voting on them separately. But I think we need to have the full conversation.
You just really
So-
want to confuse us,
I
don't you?
do. I know. I'm feeling it tonight. And I missed a word. It's listen as intently as you speak. That's the CML. That's what it should be, as
Oh, okay.
intently. And I know. Sorry, I had to get that out before.
What was
we
that?
done.
Sorry.
Okay, so thank you very much. So as you all are aware, the three jurisdictions within Chaffey County came together, three of the jurisdictions in Chaffey County came together to create the Chaffey County Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority, City of Salida, Town of Buena Vista, and Chaffey County. And this was in 2020. And at that time, the three jurisdictions created CHA via a founding IGA. So within the IGA, it identified how many voting members would be on the board, how the board was created, the varying aspects of the housing authority, and basically how it would legally work. So we have been using this founding IGA for the last 4 years, and it has served us well. We also have an IGA with CHA funding them. And that funding IGA expires at the end of this year. So for about the past 9 months, the administrators for each of the jurisdictions, as well as representatives from the Chaffey Housing Authority, have been meeting to discuss primarily the funding IGA. We needed to understand, figure out how much money each jurisdiction would be putting in. There was a vote last year where some of the lodging tax funds was then being distributed to the housing authority. We obviously have the ballot questions coming up in a couple months here. So there were a lot of things that we needed to consider in the funding IGA. And while we were looking at that, we also had discussions about the governing IGA and how it was working for the jurisdictions. So we do have, since we're on the resolution for the founding IGA, there are a couple changes. Well, there's one major change in the founding IGA. Currently, there are 9 voting members on the Housing Authority Board, and there are 3 alternates. There's an alternate from each of the member jurisdictions. I'm the City of Salida's alternate member. Alternate members also include Brian Berger, the town manager for Buena Vista, and Beth Helmke, the deputy county manager for Chaffey County. While we try to go to all of the meetings, sometimes we don't go to all of the meetings. There have been instances where the alternate member has kind of confused the situation maybe by coming in and not having been at the last meeting and just trying to get caught up on different decisions that have been made. So there had been discussion about getting rid of the alternate and making it a 12-member board, which seemed like a lot, and just having the alternates be voting members at all times. And as staff for you all, voting on policy on another local government board felt a little outside of my purview for you all. So the administrators and managers felt that reducing it to a 9-member board and not having alternates and having staff liaisons for each of the jurisdictions would be more palatable for both you as the elected officials and for us as the staff members. So that's the change in the founding IGA. That's the only one that is in there. You'll see that Nina did have, she did review the document and was concerned that if either one of the appointees for the City of Salida were unable to attend the CHA board meeting, that would obviously mean that we wouldn't have that vote there. So it does take some authority away from the city if someone isn't able to make a meeting. So I wanted to make sure that you were all aware of that. So there, as you can imagine, there are 4 entities that are working on this document and all trying to come to a conclusion that works for everyone. So the town of Buena Vista approved both of these IGAs last week. The Board of County Commissioners approved both of these IGAs as well, with the caveat, this was their caveat, which I would offer to you all if you would like to approve these. So the county commissioners approved the resolutions in concept and directed staff to finalize the agreements and for the county attorney to reconcile any changes with the other entities. So I would recommend, if the council agreed to the founding IGA in concept, that you would also direct staff to finalize with the other entities and direct our city attorney to reconcile any legal changes with the other entities. I know it's a little confusing, but that is where we are. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. And again, Nina is online and can answer questions as well.
Questions? You
I
look like
do.
you're ready to go.
So, and maybe I missed this part, but each entity has their representatives. How are those selected?
For the city of Salida, we go through our normal process of identifying appointees. So it has always been, last 4 years, always, a representative of the council. So it was initially Councilmember Nacarado.
Actually, Templeton.
Oh, that's right, yes. Councilmember Templeton, and then Councilmember Nacarado sat on the board, and now Mayor Shore is the council representative. We accepted applications for a community member to be appointed to the board, and Salty Riggs submitted an application and was interviewed by the council at the time and was appointed by this council. And let's see, the terms are up at the end of this year. January 1st, 2020, right, it's the end of this year. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was all.
Other questions?
Yeah, I guess, the initial intent of having an administrator as an alternate was just to have more of that say in what is going on and more voting power, I guess. I mean, at the time it made sense because we wanted to vet this thing that we were putting money to. And make sure that we did it right. But now I am seeing that, if I'm gathering what you're saying, sometimes there's like a conflict of interest in you having to actually sit in a voting role on certain projects, or
It can feel that way.
Okay.
Trying to be in a position where I'm not in your position of making policy decisions.
Yeah,
She just executes
yeah,
on
you're
them.
an
Just
exe- yeah,
execute
you're-
on them, so.
You're an executor.
Yeah,
Okay, I see.
executor.
I like the changes. I think that a 9-member board is much more manageable. 12 just makes me insane. Just think about having 12 people on. I mean, we've got 7 here. That's plenty. So 9 is more than enough.
Councilmember.
I guess I'm curious to hear from Councilmember Nacarado, since you are on the board. Oh, wait, no, she's not on the board.
She was, though.
You are on the board.
She was,
She
though.
was.
And she did stellar work.
I have thoughts.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for the segue. I do worry about removing that city alternate position. I know that when I was on the board, and as a working adult, which is what we want on the Housing Authority board, we don't want a board full of retired people. So as a working adult, there were times when I couldn't make some of the board meetings, and having that alternate felt really important to me when I was on the board. I'm hesitant to lose that, especially if we're continuing to provide supplemental funding to the Housing Authority. I think it's really important that we not only have that voice, but that resilience that's built into that alternate position. It also gives more potential opportunity for those, I think, with lived experience to serve on that board. to, because of work schedules and that kind of thing. But that alternate position should definitely be consulting with the board member that's not able to make it, in advance of the board meeting so that the vote can be discussed. And it's not just, and directed, I would say, in the situation that Christy just described. She should be receiving direction from the actual board member about how that vote goes. And there are instances where there's a conflict, where something that's being voted on by the housing authority is then later going to have to be voted on at council. I remember finding myself in a confusing situation where we figured out I had to recuse myself because my vote came when it comes to council. So it happens, but I think that's the nature of it being an intergovernmental organization.
I'm curious, so BV agreed to this with these conditions?
They did.
And the county did it with the additional language? So if we go a different direction, what does that mean to this agreement?
We continue to talk about it.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I don't see a reason not to continue talking about it if the council feels really strongly about this. I'm happy to take that back and talk through it more.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hear what you're saying, that it's not comfortable for you. And I hear what Dominique is saying, that she would be more comfortable with two people. It should be two council members then, with one of them having a vote, unless the other one's not there. If there has to be two people, it should be two council members.
But then you lose a community member, which I wonder, is there a way possibly to think about like having a council member sort of as the backup / alternate in the event? I don't know if that would be too cumbersome or not, but I think it would be, we would lose out on some really important voices in the community if it was just us.
What if we had, the one council person, and then we have the community member, and we keep it at 12, and each jurisdiction has an alternate that is also a community member. So it's not the city administrator or the manager. My concern with that is that I think we only had one person apply, right?
The last round.
Yeah. Okay.
Initially, there were a bunch of people.
Because that would be ideal, but I just don't know if we'd have people apply.
I have to
Having
weigh how-
12 board seats doesn't mean they all have to be filled at all times, but it does increase the potential for community participation on that board. I noticed that while we had talked about asking for more than one representative with lived experience, there's only one in the IGA, and that creates this kind of tokenism for that. It can be a lonely place to be the only person on a board representing a certain voice. And so I really wanted to see there be more than one seat dedicated to that. It doesn't mean it's always going to be full, because it's, asking people to volunteer their time for free, and that's hard. But I don't like the idea of officially reducing the number of board seats.
Can I just point of clarification? Currently, it is 9 members. Christy had mentioned that the 4, and Christy could correct me if I'm wrong, but the former board or executive director wanted to increase it to 12 full members. Right now, it's 9 regular members plus the alternates.
That's
so I just want to make sure that we all recognize that.
But I hear your point about getting more people with lived experience on the board.
So just for clarification, right now, there's 9 members on the board and the rest are alternates.
There are 9.
With this new, that we're wanting to vote in now, is getting rid of the alternates and just going straight to 9. So
It'd be a liaison. I mean, they wouldn't be gone, they just wouldn't have a vote.
Okay, so the problem is now is if one of the 9 are absent from the meeting, then the alternate would come in, and sometimes they wouldn't vote in the same way that the the member would vote, so it would kind of throw things off. And so now what we want to do is get rid of, or, move them to a liaison position to get just the 9, and then, but if all 9 members weren't at the meeting to vote, then it would be pushed to another meeting when they all could be. There's no alternate to come
It would be,
in.
it would be a quorum, so you would need, as long as there's a quorum.
Okay, a quorum,
They
okay.
would vote anyway.
It would just mean that if the not just mean, it means that if the 2 members of the city of Salida, if someone was not able to attend the meeting, then the city would not get another vote.
Okay.
I'm trying to weigh what Dominique said about as an alternate coming in, filling a space from the direction of the person, from the actual board member, makes a little bit more sense. Somebody is there and this is how I would vote, and then you're still in that, you're executing and not, you
And
know.
if the council doesn't see an issue with the administrator voting, then my feelings don't matter. Like, it's,
Oh,
just.
that don't-
They do
I
to
didn't
me.
mean it like that. I just,
There's
no,
civility
I'm just,
here.
obviously you put us in the position, each of the administrators is in a position based on their board or council's approval. So, I understand where you're all coming from. And again, Nina brought this up as a concern that she had, so,
Yeah.
Just to clarify, concern for the city of Salida, so just to point it out, you could enter into it knowingly, but it does dilute the power of the city of Salida and this multi-jurisdictional housing authority if you don't have all your members always present at meetings, and then those 2 votes are cut in half. And if you come to a point where that matters, where the city of Salida wants to promote something, that vote is diluted. So I'm just merely pointing out that is the effect of it. Obviously, you can decide otherwise, and there are practical reasons, but just to explain, when I'm looking at this IGA, I'm saying, okay, well, I'm going to point this out because it reduces the control and power of, my client, the city, within this authority.
So back to what I brought up earlier, it's really important, as Councilmember Nacarado said, I really want as much lived experience as possible on the board. But if there was someone on council who'd be willing to act like as a backup, assuming legally we can do all of that, wouldn't that be the workaround that would potentially make us comfortable?
Just like wear a wig or something, or.
A backup to the members?
Yeah, so say, for example, I have the vote, but the family emergency, I can't be there. So there's one of you who has agreed to do it, who steps in. We would have a conversation before, obviously, whoever it is would vote their conscience of what they felt was the right thing, but at least we could have a conversation and provide some context and perspective, and it would be a policymaker who would be stepping in and voting.
That's what I like, if we can legally do that.
Nina, do you see any issues with there
Everyone's
being?
looking at Nina.
No, did the IGA, no, there's no, because there's only 2 of you, but is there any, did the IGA say anything about who the alternates will be? And if so, I'll just look through and make sure that that's the language, and then to answer Mayor Shore's question is we would, whatever a majority of you want to do, approve the agreement with X amendments, and in addition to the language that Christy mentioned, and then I will speak to the lawyers, and it'll be up to them to determine whether that's a change for their governing body to readopt, or if they've given their attorneys the ability to adopt. I'm only concerned about you all and what you want to do in your agreement, but I don't see an open meetings problem with 2 elected officials, one alternate and one. I can't think of any reason to preclude that.
I appreciate that solution. I think that would work. And so keep the number of board members at 9 with 3 alternates, but remove Christy from that tricky spot of being the alternate board member, which was just sort of happening by default, I think, for a number of years.
How does that affect what the other governing bodies already voted on? You said they already voted on something.
They did, but again, nothing's been ratified. No one has signed anything. This is still a conversation that we're having. So again, if if that's the will of this council, I will take it back to them. Nina and I can talk to their administrators and their attorneys, and we'll continue to talk about it.
And it's possible this is a workaround that might appeal to them. We won't know until we bring it to them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Do we have anybody here to speak?
I'll just add that this is not the first time that we find ourselves in this situation where it's already been voted on by other jurisdictions because of the nature of the housing authority having to work with all these jurisdictions. So it doesn't in any way mean that we have to vote like the other jurisdictions did just because they already voted.
Someone has
Marjo's
to
a
be
really
right.
good cat herder.
Someone has to be first, someone has to be last. This is the only way to do it.
It's
Open
the
meeting.
nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that we might want to address is what Dominic said about the one person with lived experience and request that we have two people with lived experience and one at-large member. And if you don't get two people with lived experience, then you go back to the two at-large members. But make some effort to get more than one person in there.
And the language does say a minimum of it. And I think
says
it
a
might be
minimum.
helpful to have Marjorie come up and speak to us as the director of the authority. Thank you.
Yeah, start off by defining lived experience in its entirety.
With affordable housing, everybody is coming into it with lived experience. Good evening. My name is Marjo Kurgis. For those of you that do not know me, I know many of you. Nice to see you. I am currently serving as the interim executive director for the Chaffey County Housing Authority. And, we are not party to this governance agreement. So it really is what you all decide. But if I could give just a little guidance, the Housing Authority has definitely gone through a series of sort of operational changes over time. And granted, this governance agreement was sort of, the first pass at how we were going to operate as an organization. Managing boards, for any of you that have ever been on a board, is a lot of work. And I would say, please do not give me 12 board members. I spent 4 hours working on board stuff today. And that's 4 hours I am not working on housing directly. So with the role that having a Christy and a Beth and a Brian Berger as participants, as liaisons, is critically important to the future of the organization. We're at a point, and a very pivotal point in the development of the organization, where I think we're set and poised to accomplish a lot, but it requires a lot of coordination with your staff and leadership. And a lot of good work occurs currently through the participation of what are currently alternates, but will be liaisons if the recommendations are followed, to continue that good work. And there's a lot more collaboration occurring at that level. Where the board is and where that having alternates or a proxy, which is sort of if you have another board member as an alternate, which would also be a requirement of the county commissioners, I would like to note. There's only 3 of them. It's a little harder. And currently none of them serve on the Housing Authority Board. The challenges we've had in the past may not be as essential because we're making recommendations for how we operate more authentically and collaboratively in the future regardless. And that includes creation of sort of action plans that we bring to boards that kind of create the consistency that we're looking for in terms of decisions and actions and alignment, rather than it being sort of this one-off. I haven't been there long enough to remember and know all of the past, but with the board and IGA recommendations that have been made, I would like to think, while I understand your legal counsel's concern about diluting your power, that if we are truly working collaboratively, that if there were a situation in which Dan, currently the representative, felt that a meeting, because we currently don't do proxies, had a topic or issue where he would not be able to participate but would like to postpone it, there is no reason that we do not do that. It's all about how the board effectively works together. It's not about the number of like power votes you have. So I, in my role, am doing my best to try to create an effective board policy structure, board planning structure, organizational structure, and strategic plan for housing that would allow us to work really well together and eliminate some of the sort of past need for extra people because of distrust. So I'll leave that decision to all of you, but I do think that we are in a very sound position to kind of operate between the local government entities and the CHA that does not necessarily require 2 council people. But I do think it is important to maintain that liaison relationship because housing is so technical and it is so complex and it requires a lot of coordination. Just with regards to the lived experience, I think typically what housing authority boards do attempt to do is ensure that there is representation of individuals in the community who are currently struggling with housing, which I don't know if you know this, but it's 90% of our community who can't qualify to buy a house. So there's a pretty large pool for us to pull from, and that bringing people onto boards for any of you who are new to governance, recognize how challenging that is and how much support it takes. And so I would like to ensure that we do maintain and commit to having lived experience on our board, but not trying to have it be all of the board members, because the board itself needs to function in the way that typical boards do. I need lived experience, I need legal experience, I need financial experience, I need housing and development experience, I need the full spectrum of what any board would require to function. I need more than just people who believe housing is important. So with that, I will stop talking.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions since we have her up at the lectern?
I'm thinking
I
maybe
just
that's
want to
why we only got
clarify
one
that I
app-
wasn't saying that all of the housing authority
Yep.
board members should have lived experience. I was just saying 2 rather than 1.
I think that's maybe why we only got one
Because we don't want that tokenism. And by lived experience, to clarify that, Councilmember Critelia was meaning members of the housing insecure population in Salida.
Right. Right. And I was like saying, like, that's probably why we only had one application last time.
Well, we hope to be able to recruit people who move into the units that we eventually have available coming up in 2025 and 2026 to sort of expand that. But I think to sort of go to the rules in which they're currently stated, if I'm accurate, each board gets a certain number of members. And so I think what Dominique was requesting was to have 3 members rather than 2 members from the city of Salida.
I would just like to keep the alternate board members and not get rid of those alternate seats. So not giving you 12 board members, still keeping it at 9, but having those alternate seats available to us for resilience sake.
And just to clarify, it could be whatever Salida wants to do for their alternates. We're not going to tell, obviously, Chaffey County what to do with their alternates. And every governance board that I know of, other than like you guys as elected officials, but all your appointed boards have alternates. Just to clarify.
But the thing with the proxy that you brought up, that's a 6-member board, but Dan can't go, so I go, and I can vote for him. But the board size remains small. That's what I'd like to see.
So the board's currently 9. If we were going to do that, I would like to see that in the IGA. We would definitely need to clarify what a proxy vote could be and how it could be implemented. I would need to make sure that's in the IGA, so you guys could include that in your motion language if that's the way you want to go versus not changing the alternate section.
And I'm curious, before we go there, I mean, how do people feel about that as a solution?
I've worked with boards, and the bigger they are, the harder they fall. A small board is more agile and can get more done.
Right.
I am very opposed to big boards.
Okay, and so we're not talking about doing the 12, we're talking about doing Yes, you, please say. Yeah, we're talking about keeping it where it is at the 9. Because you got to remember, it's not, like, if you think about our planning commission as an example, that's just for Salida. But we've got BV and we have the county. So you've got 3 entities and.
I'm trying to figure out the difference between proxy and alternate.
Yeah, so it
Oh,
sounds like,
only
so
voting
we'd have
when-
our option right now is we either do like, we have the alternates, which is what we're doing right now. We have proxies, which means like, if it was maybe still Christie, and let's say Dan is the one who's not able to go, Dan would say, hey, this is how I would vote, and like, this is how I expect you to vote, kind of thing, pretty much.
I would tell you how I would vote. I wouldn't tell you how I mean, we'd have a conversation, but ultimately, I mean, all of you are policymakers too, and it would be on you to vote your conscience and what
What
you
kind
vote.
of proxy is that?
But you're still, the point is, it's
A
like.
sentient proxy?
No, I know, but like, if you think about like someone in Christie's position as an administrator and not a policymaker, it's an uncomfortable situation. We're used, this is what we do. I don't.
Yeah, I'm open to changing that to be another council member in the alternate seat. And I would be happy to serve in that role, if meetings are still on Thursdays.
The band is back together.
But I am also open to the idea of a proxy, and trust me, I get it as well as anybody. A smaller board is so much easier to manage. It's more agile. And Marjo, complete faith in your ability to build that collaboration. But the title and, the first word of your title is still interim. So you're asking us to take a leap of faith on your interim direction. And that feels a little bit tough to me at this point in time. I'm certainly willing to consider it in the future.
I want her, for sure. On the alternate seat, for sure. We'll take you up on that offer, Dominique,
But I also hear what
I'm
Marjo
open
was
to
saying
the
about.
alternate being a council member or putting proxy language in here. And proxy is not a suggestion. Your proxy vote is your legitimate vote.
That's what I thought, okay.
I mean, the difference as I see it is, like, the alternates will become liaisons, and they will be, intimately involved in following all of these meetings, whereas a proxy would step in the event that a regular board member, for whatever reason, couldn't be there. So there's a distinction. Maybe I'm just hopelessly complicating it, I don't know.
I would think a proxy would be, Nina, you could probably speak.
Wait, I'm sorry, what was that?
I think a proxy would be you give your vote on the issue to another board member to report at the board meeting.
Okay.
Not necessarily that you have somebody else standing in to give that vote.
Yeah.
Right, or else we would lose the vote.
Right, what Dominique just said, because otherwise, Councilman Nakarada, otherwise it's an alternate, which is what it already exists. Proxy is like you, I don't know, it's like you sign over a piece of paper, the other person on the board votes for you, so you still have that amount of votes. Because this is, just to remind you, this is a multi-jurisdictional housing authority, so we are a member. The city is a member. It's not a regular housing authority where it's just, it's every local government in the county, well, not every, 3 out of 4 are a member. So, anyway.
So we like keeping it like Councilmember Nacarado is saying, with the 9, 3 alternates,
No, or proxies,
3 proxies?
yeah.
And
That's-
so
yeah.
she will,
And 3 liaisons.
wow, okay.
Yeah, so we can maintain voter power.
That
We
makes
don't
sense.
lose it if somebody can't show.
Okay.
Make sense?
But the other thing that we have to go back to is what Marjo said, that this is the wrong time for administrators to step out.
They're not stepping out. They're still very involved. They're just not in a position where they have to vote so they're not going anywhere.
You'd still have the same capacity, except wouldn't be compelled to vote.
It'd be more advisory.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'd be.
And we do a
asking
lot of work in between
Yeah.
the meetings, I think is a lot of it.
Right.
So being engaged with the board in that way is extremely beneficial for the city.
Yeah, definitely.
And
So-
you're okay with that, Christy?
Yeah, I am. I think it's been really helpful
Okay.
for us to be involved with it.
Yeah.
It's
I
good.
think so
Yep,
too, but
it's
we
good.
need to make sure
Yeah.
you're.
No, it's good.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd do without you.
Really
Sleep
There'd be
better.
a lot of
So Nina, can we look then at section B, Board of Directors, and perhaps that's where there can be language about the proxy if the council directs it that way?
That's the way I like it, because our votes are
Oh,
protected.
I think she was trying to,
Yeah, I'll have to work with the, the other lawyers about making sure it's, specific language. I think when we wrote this original IGA, we spoke about proxy, and I think we must have taken it out. But again, it's to give another person who's present a vote on your behalf. So where it goes, let us, if you could just not, we don't have to be specific about it. Let's, someplace in the IGA that makes sense. That probably is where it makes sense, but, and then work with the lawyers for like specific language to, if that's what the council is leaning towards, to vote on what's presented to you, which removes the alternate and also removes your power to do the other thing we mentioned, that allows the board to remove members, and with the addition of the ability for a proxy vote, and then the other language that Christy Dune had mentioned, that allowing the city attorney to reconcile any legal changes with the other with the other entities.
it's going to take a brave person to
To
make this motion.
see if we can limit the number of times somebody can use that proxy vote, just so that doesn't get out of control, and maybe it's 2 or 3 a year.
Yeah, no more than 3.
Good idea.
Yeah, or else you're just not showing up, I
Yeah,
guess.
you're not going.
I have one more question about board language for the IGA, and I'm not sure if it's time to move on to that.
I wonder, is it related to this resolution, the next one, or?
The board or the funding?
It's related to the board,
Okay.
and it has to do with like having, I should have looked up language ahead of time, and I'm sorry if it's in there or been addressed already, but having people who are related on the board. It's my understanding that that relationship might exist now on the Housing Authority Board. Maybe it doesn't anymore. This is absolutely in no way a criticism to those people that are serving. I appreciate their time and energy, but it's, in my experience, in the nonprofit world, it is a big no-no to have people that are related to each other on a board together. It's just not best practice.
And my understanding is that does currently exist, but I believe those are the county seats. And wouldn't that be at the county's direction, since they're the ones doing the appointing? Or-
This IGA can mention that if that's what you all want.
Okay.
I think there's
So
some
they'd have to go
pretty
along with it.
typical language in most like nonprofit bylaws that prevents that from happening.
Do you know, Marjo, do you know if there's something in the CHA bylaws that allow it? I wonder if that is because if, let's say the city appointed Ben Dune as an appointee, and then they appointed Christy Dune, and then the county appointed Christy Dune, like the two jurisdictions could appoint relatives. So I don't know if it would be at the CHA board level to have that red flag.
Can you come, sorry.
Yeah, it's gonna be a mic.
It could be just to clarify, it could be in the IGA. You can say that not board members, or it could be in the bylaws. I don't understand what you're saying, like who's the second one, but then then the housing authority would say, this person's related, county, you gotta reappoint someone different than,
So
CG.
I would say you could put it in the idea if it's, clearly I'm the last one to know like who's related. Now I'm like, who's related?
This caused a shakeup. It's like someone's gotta go.
One of the things that we are discussing in terms of our board policies and procedures is kind of recommendations, policies on how you select board members based on a number of factors, and we could easily include that within that. I was unaware that there was currently an issue. Or if you choose to put it in the IGA and negotiate that with the other municipalities in the county, that would be up to your prerogative. But I'm willing to put that in our guidance.
Thank you.
I just do want to say that both of those people are very knowledgeable in what they're doing, and I do really appreciate their contribution to the board.
No question.
Thank you so much too. Again, not meant as a personal attack in any way, shape, or form. It's not, this is why we create infrastructure to prevent these problems. I'm sure that those people didn't know that is not best practices. That's not their job necessarily to know that. So absolutely not meant in any personal way.
I'm always in support of best practices
Me
and
too.
following the law.
And it's fantastic that
Well,
we've had
it's not in the
couple.
law right now, though. Like, it's not in the IGA.
Right.
It's not in the bylaws.
Right.
Like,
I mean-
they haven't done anything.
I mean, it could possibly be a conversation for a later time.
Yeah, just for the future, and that's great that we've had, a couple or whatever the situation is, and it hasn't created a problem. That just shows that can work, but I've worked for married couples and I swore it off a long time ago.
And maybe it's a broader conversation with the other entities.
Maybe.
And we are going
I just-
to create policy for you, guidance, so I'm
Yeah.
happy to include that.
Yeah, I say just let Marjo put it in the list.
Well, thank you for shining a light on that, Dominique. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's time who serves on that board. It's a lot of hard work and
You would know. Yeah. All right.
How do we make a motion?
So so can I'll offer a stab at it. Obviously, I won't make it. But the motion would be, I move to approve resolution 20-24-61, a resolution of the city council for the city of Salida, Colorado, approving the first amended and restated intergovernmental agreement for the Chaffee County Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority, and to direct staff to finalize agreement, directing the attorney to reconcile any issues with the other entities, and adding as a proxy, in the event the regular member can't vote, Councilmember Dominique Nacarado.
With a limit of 3 times in a year on the proxy.
Yeah, and she would serve in her proxy capacity no more than 3 times in a given calendar year. Does that?
And that's my motion.
Second.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm not supposed to edit your motions, but
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Yes.
you might just say.
may I just ask if Housing Authority meetings are still on Thursdays at
What's that?
4:15?
4:30.
Are they still the same date and
4:30,
time?
still on Thursdays?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to
And just while you're considering this motion, if I can just make a recognition that you might want to not specifically state her in the IGA, because I think it's multi-year and I'm not sure how long you're intending on serving.
Yeah.
I guess we would,
Yeah, that obviously would never go into the IGA name because it's just who Salida is picking, but, that's kind of the same thing as an alternate. What we were saying, a proxy is you give the ability for someone else. If you guys want the IGA to be amended that any of the other entities can have anyone that they appoint as a proxy ready voting person, that's kind of the same exact thing as an alternate. So I'm just.
But aren't we, we're thinking more in terms of what we can do to make sure we have our vote, and we have no control over what the county or BV does, so why can't we just stay focused on us?
On what we want, yeah.
Because the IGA in front of you removes the ability for alternates. And you're allowed to appoint 2 members. I believe it's 2 members. Yeah, 2 members from each. You're allowed to appoint 3 members. So if there's no alternate and the appointed, then we can't do what we're just trying to explain. A proxy is when you give someone else on the board of the ability to vote for you. So it'd be someone else who's already on the board.
Okay.
If you want to do the alternate with Dominique as the alternate, then you would want to direct us to go back to the other jurisdictions to keep in that language that they removed.
Yeah, we don't want the alternate,
Yeah, we don't want that.
So,
right?
Yeah, why would the proxy have to already
So then we go
exist on
back
the board?
to what Nina was saying about like losing, like the vote, if we
Right.
don't have the alternate.
We have the proxy.
And
But
it sounds,
a proxy isn't,
She's
it's gonna be another, it's just somebody else on the board. It's
Right.
not necessarily another person, it's just another one of the 9 members.
that
Yeah.
doesn't make any
She's saying
sense.
a proxy will
Why would
lose
the
the
proxy member
vote.
only be on the board, because then they're voting anyway?
No, the proxy, if you give some, if it's a proxy vote, then they give that ability to someone else who's currently serving on the board, their vote.
So in Dan's case, he'd cast his vote, and then he'd cast the proxy vote for the person who wasn't
Oh,
able
so
to show up.
he'd be able to wield
He'd
two
vote
votes?
No,
No.
that's not how I saw it. That's not my, I mean, that's not how I was envisioning it.
Nina,
but-
what?
Yeah, wait.
Because it's an
So-
additional vote.
Definition.
We're using Dominique as a hypothetical example. She's not appointed to the board. She could be appointed as an alternate, but you're removing that language. So unless you want to reinsert the alternate language, a proxy is not just like not like Dominique's a random person, but it's not just like a random person. It's the ability for. I mean, this is why we have alternates. And this is why I recommended that you don't remove the alternate language. But anyway, a proxy vote is that the person who cannot attend gives the ability of someone who's already on the board the ability to vote, because otherwise what you're saying is that Dominique is the alternate.
Oh.
So
Okay.
it's an either or situation, so proxy. I could see us keeping the alternate language for now until Marja removes the interim from in front of her title. And then we could go back and look at the potential for proxy voting.
So then the alternates were removed in the version in front of you. So if that's the way a majority want to go and you'd amend the motion, if that's what you want to do, is that you would reinsert that you don't agree with the removal of the alternates, and then that we would go back to the other entities and then see if they would, then they would vote on, or however they want to execute that agreement, their agreements. So it's up to you, but I'm just,
Okay.
what you're saying with Dominique, that's an alternate. That's not a proxy.
All right.
And
There's the
confusing
difference.
things by making that joke, obviously,
now
we would go
it's
through
more
the full process of
All right.
hiring the
Okay.
director.
Let me,
No,
let
but
me,
it's a good point. It's a good point, Councilmember Nakarado, because I mean, just about 6 months ago, I have a copy of a resolution taking away all the power from all the jurisdictions and all the votes, and I was trying to explain this is a multi-jurisdictional housing authority, so it's nothing personal when the lawyer brings up things. It's just to make sure that's why it was created as a multi-jurisdictional housing authority to ensure certain things. So it's a good point to bring up that it, and maybe if someone, a certain person is in that position, then you see things differently and you make that educated decision. It's all up to you, but as long as you're making that decision knowingly on behalf of the city.
okay.
So then maybe,
We already have a
Hold on
motion
one sec,
then.
hold on one sec. Yeah, well, you go and then you go.
So I guess we can't tell like BV and the county how to choose their alternate, right? Okay, cool. So like for us, it's gonna be a council person.
Yeah.
Because we've heard that it's not like favorable for our city administrator to be in that position.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, because I was like, do we like add that language in of like, with like BV, but we can't tell them how to
No, we
choose their
can't.
alternate.
We can just put our stuff in.
This version of the IGA removes the language that was in the prior version that said there were alternates. So if you did not agree with the removal of that language, you would just approve this agreement with the reinsertion of the 3 alternate positions. And then you, as a governing body, get to appoint who your alternate is.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
well,
For Salida.
So at this point, we have a motion and a second,
Right.
and it's pertaining to not fully understanding the definition of what even a proxy is. So can we just amend it from here, or do we have to kill it? Like, how do we
You made
do?
them, you can amend or withdraw the amendment.
We can amend it.
Draw.
Yeah, the person who made the motion, that would be the cleanest way.
Okay.
I withdraw the motion.
Is that, the withdrawals, does that work legally, Nina?
Yeah, that's fine. That's.
And I
yeah,
can
start-
second her withdrawing it because I seconded it.
Why not?
Cool. All right.
All right.
Oof, that was close. We almost.
So can I try
I don't know what
can I
proxy
try another crack at the motion with this understanding, and people can tell me if they think it works or not, and we'll go from there. So the motion is, I move to approve Resolution 2024-61, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the first amended and restated intergovernmental agreement for the Chaffee County Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority, and directing staff to finalize agreements at the direction of the attorney to reconcile any issues with the other entities, and reinserting the language about the 3 alternates for voting purposes.
I'm not going to make that motion.
Well,
Justin's writing it down.
No, to reconcile, you want us to,
The attorney to reconcile.
The attorney.
the attorney to reconcile what?
The language.
Can I-
Any issues with the other
Correct me,
entities.
but the county made this motion, so I'm just, they directed the county attorney to reconcile any legal changes with the other entities. So a good language would be to direct, if you agree, with the county, direct the city attorney to reconcile any legal changes in the agreement with the other entities.
That's a reason for that.
Okay, legal changes.
Then in addition, if we want your direction, what you want to do on the alternates, because that's a decision we want your guidance on, what you're doing.
Did that motion, from a legal perspective, does that work?
Cover.
That's for you.
Yeah, if you would like to take a friendly amendment to to say direct the city attorney to reconcile any legal changes in the agreement with other entities.
Yeah.
That's that point. And then I understand what you mean, reinserting the language about regarding alternates.
Yep. Okay. So,
Somebody's going to have to
I could
take that
do it
motion on.
unless
if
you're
you're
gonna,
going
I
to.
could try it.
okay.
I don't know if I got all that.
I mean, I've got it.
Okay.
Okay, you.
So I move to approve Resolution 2024-61, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the first amended and restated intergovernmental agreement for the Chaffee County Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority, and to direct the attorney to reconcile any legal changes in the agreement with other entities, and to retain the language of 3 alternate members.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion from Councilmember Catelli, seconded by Councilmember Fontana. The motion is to approve Resolution 2024-61, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the first amended and restated intergovernmental agreement for the Chaffee County Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority, and to direct the attorney to reconcile any issues with the other entities, and to add back in the language pertaining to the 3 alternates. Further discussion?
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Peppenfort,
No.
Fontana,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Critelli.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, my head feels like it's about to explode.
We'll wait till the next one.
Yes. Let's see how the next one goes.
Jeez, that was
Do we have to
nice.
wait? It's happening now.
Pins and needles.
Yeah, I know. All right, so, Resolution 2024-62 approves the funding agreement between the entities and the Chaffee County Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority. The majority of this is a cut and paste from the last one, because again, they are tied together. If we look at the bottom part of page 1, we'll talk about the funding specifically for CHA. So the initial funding that was provided through the original IGA in 2021 was $185,000 split 3 ways between Chaffee County, the City of Salida, and the town of Buena Vista. For the past 3 years, or 4 years actually, the City of Salida has been contributing $30,000 to the Housing Authority. And that was done via a resolution in July of 2021. Once the ballot initiative passed that allowed the county commissioners to reallocate a portion of the lodging tax, the county was then able to provide additional funds to the housing authority. In 2023, it was $260,000, and in 2024, it's $350,000. So that added a great bump for CHA. The other member jurisdictions through our general fund remained the same. Our funding remained the same. Again, we've been working with a couple different executive directors, a couple different board chairs throughout this process, and have gotten to a point where the funding agencies, funding jurisdictions have looked at a $400,000 allocation to CHA in 2025. $35,000, it was basically based on population. $35,000 would come from the city of Salida, 15 from the town of Buena Vista, and 50,000 from Chaffee County, with an additional $300,000 coming from the lodging tax. So $400,000 from the city of Salida. Now, or not from the city of Salida, excuse me, $400,000 in total. So this IGA, that's the easy part, right? This IGA also takes into consideration if the sales tax question passes, which could then, in 2026, reduce the amount of funding from the city of Salida's general fund, because they would already be getting, approximately $3.5 million, would then decrease our amount to zero, is our expectation. So even if what this IGA sets is that if the ballot question passes this November, we would still be looking at funding them in 2025 because, it takes a while for the money to get into the bank. A question came up of why do we have all of these different scenarios in one IGA? Why don't we just have two IGAs and on November 6th we could just pass the one that made the most sense? And what the three jurisdictions really wanted to do was show support for the Chaffee Housing Authority, regardless of the passing of the ballot measure. And to do that, to show our financial commitment to CHA, this is the IGA that we came up with, having all of these different variables. We understand that it's complicated, we do, but hopefully we have done a good job of saying if this, then that. There is one clause that could also be included in this, and that is if the Tabor question does not pass, it would cap CHA's ability to receive revenue to I think $185,000 annually. There would be some consideration of how projects could get funded via another source if we needed to do that. So that's the funding IGA. Again, we had a funding IGA that was established for 3 years with an automatic renewal of 1 year. The current funding IGA expires at the end of this year. Knowing that we need to get something in place during the budget process for all of the local governments, we obviously want to look at this now. Yes, so we have incorporated the $35,000 into the 2025 draft budget that you all have been reviewing the last couple of council meetings. So staff recommends approval of the IGA in its current concept. Again, allowing our city attorney to review and reconcile any legal issues with the other entities.
Questions?
I just have a comment. I like the idea about the clause, about if the Tabor doesn't get passed, being able to still find a way for the CHA to utilize that money.
Okay, great.
I have a question about the $35,000 that the city funds. So if it does pass, we're still going to give them the $35,000 because they won't start receiving money until March.
Right.
So we don't have an option to give them a smaller amount because they will start receiving money if it does pass.
That's not the way it's set up in this IGA, but if that is what the council wants to look at.
I'm just thinking about the budget that we're trying to balance at this point. And 35,000 may not seem like a lot, but it definitely is a lot. And if we're giving around $2,916 and change per month to them, but we're giving it in one lump sum, if we only fund them for 3 months until March, instead of the whole 35,000, and maybe that makes it really complicated. I don't know, but if these measures do pass, they're going to receive other funding besides the city of Salida. We can keep our funding and use it somewhere else to balance our budget.
And so I hear what you're saying, and I'm wondering if we were to go that route, and obviously that would be a council decision, maybe to give them a little bit more of a buffer, maybe, 6 months, just in case the disbursement of funds happens more slowly.
So half of the amount.
I mean, if that's the direction council wanted.
I mean, I just thought I'd throw it out there. We're having a lot of trouble balancing, not a lot of trouble. We're just trying to figure out how to be conservative with our budget.
A lot of belt tightening.
Yes, a belt tightening. So this is an option.
I think that's a,
Oh, wait, hold on, go ahead. And
Sorry, what is the percentage of our community that's in a housing crisis right now? What is it? 90%? Okay, I'm comfortable spending or giving them $35,000 for next year to get you guys on your feet. That is very okay with me. We are in a housing crisis. You don't solve a crisis by putting on Band-Aids. You gotta go in and you gotta do it.
well, I appreciate Council Member Fontana's diligence with the budget. In this case, we need to show support for the housing authority, and we need to designate the whole 30,000.
Even if they're going to raise $3.5
Even
million.
Exactly, because they're asking to pass a ballot measure, and they're asking for a show of support. 30,000 is still not that big of a show of support, but it's better than 6, it's better than 15. I'm all in.
And, and that's something where, we could put this to a vote, and people vote, however they see fit, and then we just tally the vote.
Right. Yeah, and I'm comfortable with it because this, as I referred to last night, we aren't, as a city, we're not landlords. We depend on an organization like the Housing Authority to be our managing arm, to make sure that all of this inclusionary housing that we have and deed restrictions remain solid and remain that way. We have no capacity to do that. Without the an actual boots on the field entity that can manage that interest, we just are throwing up like a prayer. So this is the way that you fund affordable housing. This is the way that you do it as a city, so that we're not doing it ourselves. I just don't have the time to manage properties, I don't even have my own, so yeah. I think that this is a noble effort that we should be putting towards.
So that's 3 for 30.
35.
Mr. Mayor, I would go ahead and
Okay,
make a
35.
motion.
Just wanted to clarify.
For there.
Yeah, I'm kind of on board with the 35 as well. So you were saying, we are in, with our budget and everything. But this is also something that's very important that we need to make sure that we, give our support to as well. So yeah, I'm kind of on board with the keeping it at the 35,000 myself.
Councilmember Nacarado, would you like to add anything, or?
Just go
Oh,
ahead
sure,
and
I'm
make the
mute.
motion so we can- I would just go ahead and make the motion so that we can vote.
She wanted to make a motion,
Oh, motion.
but it's a little hard to hear you, Councilmember Nacarado.
Well, then I would love for somebody else to make the motion.
Okay, that's probably good. The perils and pitfalls of virtual.
Are we ready for?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2024-62, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the First Amendment and restated intergovernmental funding agreement for the Chaffey County Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Stevens, seconded by Councilmember Pappenfort. The motion is to approve Resolution 2024-62, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the first amended and restated intergovernmental funding agreement for the Chaffey County Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority. Further discussion? Oh, you want that language goes in here too?
Yes, along with, if I heard inclusion of the bullet point if the Tabor question doesn't pass. Councilmember Wales had asked that.
So our city administrator mentioned the.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how the motion, because I'm just repeating what I just heard.
Does that require an amendment?
Don't you
Maybe made by.
redo it and say that?
Somebody put that in this time.
The same language from the first resolution.
Yeah. And do we need the Tabor in?
If you would like that bullet point in the funding
Okay.
IGA.
Does it, anyone?
I mean, I would like it, but I don't know how everyone else feels about it.
But you can always introduce an amendment.
yeah,
and
you
get
can
a
introduce
Get a
it.
second if you feel comfortable with that.
Sorry, I know these are complicated.
We're about to find out how people feel about this amendment.
So I would like to, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve resolution.
Or amend, or to amend.
Okay, so to amend resolution 2024-62, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the first amended and restated intergovernmental funding agreement for the Chaffey County Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority with a clause for the Tabor ballot measure. If it is not passed, we will continue to fund we would like to see the money still used for affordable housing. I don't know.
Or we would
through CHA?
continue to fund the CHA, would that be, is that correct?
No, because it's about the Tabor money. It's like if they go over, then they can't use that, so. Yeah, how did you word your clause when you mentioned it earlier?
Nobody wrote it down.
I didn't even know it was a thing.
That fast.
Sorry, let me because I was reading it.
There's also the other part too, about directing the attorney,
And is there a legal way to do that?
or directing the staff to finalize, or direct the attorney to reconcile the issues.
She's probably pulling her hair out.
Basically, direct staff to finalize the agreement and direct the attorney to reconcile any issues with the other entities. That make sense?
I think you could include a clause,
Let the lawyers work.
yes, let the lawyers work. Anticipating a scenario where the debrucing measure fails and CHA needs to cap its revenues under Tabor limits.
Okay, we're gonna try this. All right, so, Mr. Mayor, I move to amend Resolution 2024-62, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the first amended and restated intergovernmental funding agreement for the Chaffey County Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority, with a clause in case the debrucing measure fails, and the they can retain the funding from the Tabor. And also the, can you give me that? That's why I don't do it. Okay. Then I would like to also direct staff to finalize the agreement and direct our city attorney to reconcile any
Issues with the other.
issues with the other entities. No, you're good.
Do we,
I think that was it.
Okay, I think so. Yeah? Yes? Okay.
My only concern about the second is if it's legal to do that with a
Right.
Tabor thing.
Yeah.
You know, we can't say Tabor doesn't exist, we're just gonna let you spend the money anyway.
That's
So
if the
that's my
debru-
concern.
Well,
If the debrucing fails.
let's have Nina weigh in.
Yeah, Nina.
Yeah, sorry, if Christy could just explain what she was offering, and then I can speak to it. Yeah, because if they don't vote to debruce, they can't retain certain monies. So I'm kind of, I would like some clarification as
That's
to
what
what
we
you're
can
trying to
do
do
about
here.
So the suggestion was to include a bullet within the funding IGA that anticipates and lists a scenario wherein the debrucing measure fails and CHA needs to cap its revenue under the Tabor limits. There wasn't anything else. It was just allowing that to be in the IGA so that then the city would still be able to contribute, the county, there would just be a limit. So it's just an acknowledgement that the Tabor question did not pass, because that's the only scenario that's not in the IGA, and so that came from the commissioners meeting.
So the amendment is that if the Tabor debrucing ballot measure fails, that CHA would need to cap their revenue.
Yes.
Does that already happen?
Yes, no, maybe so?
Yeah,
Yes, the way that's what would need to happen if the debrucing measure fails.
I'm sorry, what?
So if you include it in the IGA.
It was a recommendation from the Chaffey County attorney, I believe.
Okay, great. Yeah, we could have, okay, yeah. It would have been less confusing if it was in this agreement, but we'll work with the lawyers to put that language in. So now I understand it's with the amendment that if Tabor debrucing measure fails, that CHA needs to cap its revenue.
So,
And the only reasonable way to do that, it seems to me, is if you can only spend $185,000, then you have to redo the math and not take the 0.5%. Maybe you take 0.25%. So how deep do we want to get in this quicksand?
Well, I think at this point, it's really, I mean, there's a motion on the table, and so it comes, at this point, I think it comes down to, do we have a second or not?
But that's why we're trying to find out the legality.
Right, and we just did.
yeah.
And we just did, and we
All
heard
right.
about the county.
I'll throw a second in.
Okay.
If
So,
Nina- if Nina isn't yelling
Okay.
at us, then
Okay.
it sounds like
All
we're.
right.
With that amendment, it is what I'm saying is if Tabor, if I'm hearing it correctly, that if Tabor debrucing ballot measure fails, that CHA needs to cap its revenue. That would be basically, you're saying that that you need to follow the law. So,
Yeah, that's already in
but
place.
I understand the concern of like all the bullet points, that's one of the scenarios that wasn't captured. So we'll work with that.
Okay. So, is it yes? So I can I, okay, very good. Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Martin, seconded by Councilmember Curtalli. The motion, it's an amendment. I move to amend Resolution 2024-62, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the first amended and restated intergovernmental funding agreements for the Chaffey County Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Authority, and adding a clause regarding the debrucing measure, anticipating a scenario where it fails, and providing with the authority having the ability to retain funding, and directing staff to finalize agreement by directing the attorney to reconcile any issues with the other entities. Further discussion? Okay, so we're going to vote on this, then we'll come back to the original motion as amended.
Fontana?
So we're voting on this original.
The amended, no, we're voting on this, what with the amendment that was just put forth, and then we'll go back to the original motion as amended.
So this is adding what we just.
Yes.
What we just added.
Nacarado?
She's gone.
Yeah.
Stevens?
Yes.
Critelli?
Yes.
Happenfort?
No.
Martin?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, and now we go back to the original motion as amended.
Okay. Happenfort?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, now I'm really exhausted. And it's on to council reports. So we'll start with Councilmember Critelli.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to just start off, I'd be remiss to not mention the loss of Jim Miller. In my whole process of getting to this point, to the seat, he was just a stalwart and consistent community member that loved this community as much as anybody, and his loss is deeply felt. I didn't always get along with a lot of topics that had come up, but I always respected where he was coming from, and he showed the same to me, and we had many lively discussions in these chambers and out, and I will miss him. You don't get community members like that every day, and especially ones that'll take the time to talk to a young kid like me that didn't really know anything at the beginning of this. Miss you, Jim. And I wanted to just bring up Art Walk. My first Art Walk was 11 years ago. My first weekend ever being in Salida I had never heard of was FIBARC. I had never heard of FIBARC or Salida up until that point. And while FIBARC got my attention, Art Walk stole my heart. I realized that this was just not just a party and athletic town. This was an art community. At the time, the F Street was closed. The galleries were allowed to spill out onto the street. I was amazed at how many artists were out here and thriving and creating amazing things. And I met so many amazing community members like Shark and Eyeball and B-Man and Rocket Man and the Mud People and the Alien People and all these people that have gotten me, that pushed me to be on stage. I'd never stepped foot on a stage before being in this community. And Art Walk allowed me to stick around and identify Salida as just a special gem. So when I heard, when you're making an event and you're going to the lengths of getting signatures for a piece of road, it throws a huge wrench in the gears of your event when you're told that it can't happen there because of reasons that I don't see really differentiate from closing the street for FIBARC, except that the odds of somebody driving over a barrier is more likely during FIBARC, I feel like. People getting more sendy for that. This is Art Walk. It does seem like a trivial thing until you realize that this is for the, just as Councilmember Stevens had pointed out, for the galleries to get their things. I mean, we have a lot of older gallery owners where lugging their stuff that extra mile, I just don't understand why Art Walk being such a gem needs to be moved for reasons of somebody potentially driving over a barrier. But I think I want to just give council a chance to show support for Art Walk on F Street. This is for our locals. This isn't just for tourism. I mean, this is something that is very Salida. And we already have those signatures, so does anybody feel strongly one way or another on this?
Or maybe just ask, do I have anyone to support me on this? to have
Sure, does
direction.
anybody want to support me on this?
I support you on this, is, yeah, because
I also support
having a, me and my wife had an art gallery and record store downtown for many years, and have an art walk there right outside your door. Let us open our doors and not have to, and be right there on the street. We don't have to pay somebody to be at a store and then also pay somebody to be, if you wanted something out on the street, it would be right there. You could do both yourself. You didn't have to kind of.
Yeah. So we have directions.
Yeah.
Staff has directions.
That's forward. That's awesome.
Anything else tonight?
One last thing, I just in case there was, because I'm a New Yorker. Last night, it may have seemed like I was being a little bit crass when of course I support our fire department, and that's just my tone. I can't turn it off. But and I have 3 family members, 2 aunts and an uncle that were in New York on 9/11 that were saved. 9/11 came up in the discussion last night, guys. Like, definitely support our fire department. I only had trepidations when it comes to just the budget at the end of the day. It feels like when I have to be the adult, that's the role that I'm in, of like managing the family, like, hey, no family vacation this year because we're pinching pennies. Whereas Chief is playing his role perfectly, a champion for the department. I have to say, hey, what can we do? What can't we do? And what makes sense to me as far as when it comes to this huge build, biggest project that we have, and how to make sense, how to make that money work. I think that one thing that I did get from this, though, is that we need some sort of MOU between other municipality that we serve in Poncha and in the county. It seemed to me that we're paying for that service area that I don't see an equal pay in, at least unless I was missing something from the presentation. It would be good to get something in right, a little help, showing.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right, that's all I needed to say, so I'm done.
Okay. Councilmember Fontana.
Definitely like to say Jim Miller will be missed. Same thing Councilmember Curtelli said. He was an inspiration, good man, and he was there to agree with you or disagree with you equally. So he will be missed. The next thing I would like to add is I went to the Guidestone fundraiser this year, just last week. It was wonderful. Guidestone, and they have been into my place of business, and I really didn't understand what they were for. They are a wonderful organization, support farmers, support youth, many, many volunteers, volunteer hours, and there's a place for everybody to volunteer. If you would like to jump right into that Guidestone, they would take you. So just look up Guidestone in our community, and it's out there for you. The next thing, I also went golfing for the first time this year to our golf course. It was wonderful. The golf course, the grounds are awesome. The people that work there, I met the new golf pro. His name is Braden. We have a wonderful golf course right in our front yard. So anybody would like to go and use that, it's open for a little bit longer. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. And Councilmember Nacarado, and if you can try to speak up a little so we can, my ears are not as good as they used to be.
I messed around with my speakers. So is that any better?
Closer.
No, we can't hear you.
Okay, no.
Councilmember, if you type it in the chat, I'd be happy to vocalize it for you.
That's like
a
I'm not going to do that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better now.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for putting up with me being online. I know it sucks for everybody, and I am not feeling well, so I didn't want to share that with you all tonight. I wanted to speak back to our civility resolution for this evening and just bring up one of the bullets which said curious before furious. I really appreciate that one. I think I used to talk about this a lot when I first joined council and was surprised by how many people came in and were so furious with us, but hadn't asked any questions or didn't have all the facts before they got furious. And so I truly believe, and that was not everybody, but it just happened sometimes. And so I used to preach about that a lot. Just ask questions and be curious. Curiosity is a sign of emotional intelligence, is what they say. And I do appreciate the questioning that goes on in this council. I think it's really rich and provides for really great conversation. And I think setting that civility resolution, we're also asking for that from the community too, as well as expecting it from ourselves. And then my only other thing, it's been a week of big losses, and I'll also miss seeing Jim Miller at council. That's the only way that I knew him, but I do want to honor our friend and brother, Pat Horton, who also passed away last week. He was one of the brave people that taught me how to be a raft guide. And he did it nicely and put his shoulders around me when I had my first flip down in the Grand Canyon, put his arms around my shoulders, sorry. And I'm just really gonna miss him, and I appreciate this platform for honoring those who have passed. I'm gonna miss that guy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pappenfort.
There was a goodbye to Marshall Dyer, longtime river guide. I understand that the memorial was just a history of the river, that all of the guides came out. So farewell, Marshall. Jim Ruggles also died recently, and he was in a band, Shakedown Street. So, he entertained us for years. And certainly Jim Miller is missed, because a citizen who brings so much and so many facts and is brave, and just tells it like it is, that's just rare. And it's just really appreciated. I want to also shout out for Jim for the affordable housing work that he and Ren did. Very proud of their park. When they first got there, they ripped up the water pipes and the sewer pipes, and they fixed it all. And so what had been a nightmare to live in became a paradise for all of those people. And I saw that when I was canvassing and going door to door. I heard these stories. And Jim, of course, would always introduce me as, this is Elisa, she's your council member. I don't agree with her on everything, but she's good. She'd be a good representative, and she needs your vote. And so he could certainly see the multi-dimensional aspects of things that we're dealing with, because I'm sure it was complicated when he was the mayor in Nederland as well. And so we just appreciate those thoughtful people bringing things to us that we don't see if they don't come and talk to us. I would just kind of secretly call Jim Mr. Parking. And so one day we'll be talking about that again. Yeah, Jim said we weren't putting in enough parking spaces, and sure enough, look where we are now. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Stevens.
I just want to start with, on the note of losing great community members. A couple nights ago, Dennis Dempsey passed away. He was a member of the airport board for a long time. Great, funny guy, just great to be around. Big loss there. On a brighter note, the FIBARC youth paddling program just finished up their last paddling day on last Friday, and just would like to announce that all members of the youth paddling program, around 10 years old, all paddled through and successfully navigated the Scout Wave, which is an amazing thing to see.
10-year-olds?
10-year-olds, yeah.
Can be done.
Can be done.
Yeah.
Made it through. They all had a big smile on their face. They loved it. on their way down to Salida East for their last day of paddling. The youth paddling program through FIBARC has come a long way just in the last couple of years. You know, it kind of went away for a while, and now it's starting to make its way back through collaboration with the city of Salida. Thank you to Diesel down there and their Salida Rec, RMOC for providing instructors. It's just been a great program to be able to watch. I moved here to Salida, and one of the biggest things in keeping me around here was the river. And so every time I'd get off the river or whatever I was doing, I'd be down at the river in the play hole, just learning how to kayak. I wasn't able to learn how to kayak till I was, 17, 18 years old. And having that play hole down there, I just threw myself in there until I learned how to roll. There was nothing going on at that point to teach me how to be a kayaker. I just got in there and watched people and did it myself, and then eventually became a kayak instructor through RMOC when Ray Kitson owned it down where the boathouse is now. So just watching that, flourish through the last couple of years through help with the city and through FIBARC and RMOC has just been a great program. And if you have any time to go, they should be starting their pool sessions here pretty shortly for their class 1 kayakers, where they just go in and kids are able to get into boats provided by the city and FIBARC, and go in and just learn how to be in a kayak, get their wet exits down, and then step up from there. So it's just a great paddling program, and I'm very proud to announce that.
Okay, thanks. Councilmember Martin.
I was wondering if we could maybe move that budget adoption date, just because we are getting I know Amy brought it up last night, and I thought about it a little bit, but if we get the financial management plan on Monday night, and then we have the adoption on Tuesday night, I would like to have a little bit more time, I think, that's a lot of information intake. So I don't know if I have a second on that.
So your request is to postpone budget approval?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, I can move on to my next thing.
No, I'm just trying to think about it. So we'll get the presentation, the rest of the presentation Monday, and then we'll vote on it Tuesday. So you're just asking, we'll get the presentation Monday and push the vote back 2 weeks. So we have 2 weeks to look at it?
I think she's speaking about the financial management plan that's been commissioned from UMB and should be delivered just before we move into our next cycle.
Just so that there would be like a 2-week buffer between the information received on that Monday and then the passing of the budget. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I guess my only question would be, from a staff perspective, are there any deadlines, anything that we need to be?
Amy said last night.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Amy said the budget is not due until the end of December. So we do have, we do have Freeboard here. Although she said that if we have worked hard to find all savings we can in the budget currently. So while the financial management plan will give us direction in the future, I don't know that it will impact our ability to cut anything from our existing budget. I'm not opposed to delaying the approval, though. I'll put that forward.
Can I just point, are you talking about the budget hearing? Because it's already been noticed, and if so, you could make a motion the day of the hearing. But are we talking about the budget hearing that's been noticed?
Yes.
So there,
So, yeah, we can't make that motion here. You'd have to make it, because it's been noticed. It's a public hearing. So what you could do is make that motion when it's on
The next meeting.
the day that it's been noticed for, and then you can make a motion to continue it to a date certain, but you can't make that type of change at this point, just a procedural note.
and we do have on the, thank you, Nina, we do have on the agenda, the hearing is on October 1st, but adoption isn't until the next meeting, on the 15th. So we can keep the hearing there and wait to make sure that we have the financial management plan so that we know what day we could move it to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds good.
So we would like delay the approval, not the presentation, or the.
Right, the hearing's been
Or the
posted,
hearing.
so that will be October 1st, but you wouldn't be voting on the approval of the budget at that time regardless. It's still
Okay.
at the next meeting, so.
After that.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not the day after?
Yeah, so we'll keep it, so,
Perfect.
Okay.
yeah.
And then I did have the pleasure of taking a tour of the fire station today. I wanted just to check out what the whole upstairs, and this is the South Arc, and this is ours, just to have a clear picture. And I got to talk with Chief a little bit about the
Apparatus.
well, not the apparatus. The day that the staff got to go and do like burn unit stuff. And
The live
I-
fire training?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I would like for council to have a chance to see what our men do. If anyone else, like for like a work session or something like that.
We'll have to, we don't have the facility, so we have to schedule that with the state, but we can note it and.
Okay.
it-
Or just some sort of work session with the fire department. I
It wouldn't
guess.
even necessarily have to be a work session, it could just be so.
Maybe we can hold the work session in the live fire unit, facility.
That's what I'm feeling.
I mean, the last time we did a work session at the fire department, it was awesome. It was awesome.
And it also came with a lot of ADA issues back then.
Oh, for sure.
To be aware of.
That's right.
Yeah.
We can schedule something, as soon as the new fire station opens, there's a community room there, and we can absolutely schedule something. Yes. Noted.
And then I was hoping to maybe get a staff directory sent to council with just like emails for staff. Is that a possibility? Because I tried to like find an email on the city website for one of our staff members and wasn't able to. I was wondering if council could get like a staff directory or something.
The only caveat I would say to that is we still need to send stuff through Christie so she's aware of communications, otherwise.
Chain of command.
It's chain of command.
I know. I mean, if I want to email chief and ask for a tour.
Right, but even so, I think it's still helpful as much as we can to, to follow chain of command. It's not like Christie's going to get in the way of it. She just needs to know, what demands and things are being placed on people. So I think it's really important we keep that as a best practice.
Filter.
I think access to email is very minimal.
It is, but I still think it's really important that we follow the chain of command here.
Okay.
That's a policy thing.
Yeah.
That's not like a whim,
It's
right?
more than a best practice.
Yeah, it's just, I only really ever.
I'll
know.
just add that is best practice for nonprofit or any environment where there is a board of directors, because there's a tendency for boards of directors to start to micromanage the staff who actually answer to Christie. Staff answers to Christie, Christie answers to us. It's really important for preserving staff time and chain of command, just like everybody said.
In the way the chain of command, the
In
only
your
people that
city council
report to us
handbook,
are
we
the
could do a
administrator, the
training on
clerk,
that,
and
but it's in
the
your city
attorney.
council
So
handbook
we
discussing
just
all of
need to
that.
be cognizant of that.
Oh, what was that, Nina? You said something?
It's in your city council handbook, a discussion of the, the role of the city administrator and how everything goes through the city administrator and why that is. And so we could re-go over our handbook. We also bring back Sam Light from CIRSA, who's discussed the importance of that, because it could involve personal liability too if you don't go through that chain of command. It's really important that, because Christie is a city administrator and she directs all the staff.
Okay, and that's it for me.
Okay, I just had a few things tonight. First off, regarding Jim Miller, I know a lot's been said, so I'll be brief. And just want to say how proud I am to be able to have called him a friend, and how grateful I am to him for all the mentorship he provided over the years. And the thing that spoke most loudly to me at his memorial is how many tenants of his spoke glowingly about him. That doesn't happen all that often, and it really does speak to his character. The second thing I wanted to mention is to get an update, and I think the CIRSA insurance person's coming in shortly, but I have heard from some people in the community about Spiral Drive. So it would be great to get an update in the near future.
If I could address that, so we'll be here on Thursday, and we have a discussion of Spiral Drive on your October 14th work session.
Fantastic, thank you. The next thing I wanted to mention is there's been some issues out near the dog park and on the spur trail with people who have not been properly leashing their dogs, getting into the rancher's field. And if it hadn't been for the intervention or the pleading of law enforcement, those dogs would have been shot. And I'm a dog lover. I don't want to see that happen. The rancher has rights. He was fully within his rights. One of his cattle broke its leg, had to be put down. It had a calf. And so my ask to the community is, if you have a dog and you have it off leash there, are you prepared to deal with the consequence of him shooting your dog because you don't have it under control? So as a dog lover, up your game and don't put anyone in that situation. The last thing I just wanted to mention, I want to extend my appreciation to Fire Chief Jonke for finding other sources of revenue, and really appreciate the work you put into that. And that's all that I had. Next up, we have Treasurer Report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to also echo all the nice things that have been said about Jim Miller. I had an opportunity to know him briefly. Also, I want to report that the general fund balance is favorable. And then the city sales tax and Chaffey County sales tax report. The city sales tax collections increased by about $6,800 or about 0.7% as compared to July 2023. The city's portion of the Chaffey County sales tax collections actually declined about $6,200 or 0.17% decrease for July 2023. In total, sales tax receipts are flat for July and 2.5% higher year to date. Actual collections are 1.6% behind year to date. And that's the end of my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anything from our attorney this evening?
No, thank you.
Okay, how about department updates? I know they were in the packet.
They are, and I have one update, if I could very quickly. On Thursday last week, the district court ruled in favor of the city of Salida in our default judgment against the property owner at 610 Walnut Street. And this morning, Avalanche Excavating cleared the property, so it is cleaned up. The police reboarded up the trailer that is on site, and we will continue to monitor and try to keep that property clean as we determine next steps to move forward.
Okay, thanks. Okay, all that remains is a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night, everybody.
Anybody opposed?